What's going on, fight fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the main event right here on Franchise Sports Media. I am Kalani Lewis with my main man Griff Camp. Griff, we have some interesting fights this past weekend. UFC, boxing, man on man.
Full weekend.
Full
weekend
fight card.
Dirty, nasty violence.
Talking about violence, the main event of UFC Fight Night. Chito Vera, Marlon Vera. Didn't put one.
Nope.
Didn't put two.
What?
Didn't put three.
What?
Didn't put four.
What?
Put the entire foot.
Right in the man's mouth.
And Dominick Cruz's face. Dominick Cruz obviously won the best, but what was your thoughts of the main event? Vera knocking out Dominick Cruz.
You know, Chito looks amazing. He looks amazing. He's looking like one of the best guys in that weight division. And after watching it, my biggest takeaway, it wasn't even about the two guys who were in that octagon that night fighting. After watching that fight, I'm just full of regret, remorse. I wish that Dana White and Sugar Sean O'Malley had just waited just a little bit longer. Just waited a little bit longer to book that fight with Peter Yan. You got number 13 ranked Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on the number one contender in Peter Yan. Yes, it's a big fight. Yes, it's huge for Sugar Sean's career and his momentum towards possibly fighting for a belt. But I don't think this would have been amazing. Not only had that, you know, Chito's not number one. Chito's number 5. He just beat number 8.
But he's on a 4-5 win streak.
He is. But imagine had he won this fight.
In the way that he did.
In the way that he did. And then they go and they say, you know what? That's amazing. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take you, Chito, after you just did this and put on this amazing performance, capping off the streak you've been going on. We're going to get you back in the cage with a guy who you beat. But he doesn't recognize that defeat.
He doesn't. He says it never happened.
It never happened.
He didn't have the Men in Black face.
It was nerve damage. It was whatever excuse he had for it. I would have loved to see these two paired up next, and then maybe whoever wins this fight then goes on to fight Peter Yan, or then maybe even just goes straight to the chin, to the shut of the belt.
You threw me for a bit of a loop there. I thought you was going to say, because he's number 5, maybe we get Chito Vera taking on Peter Yan. To me, that would have been an amazing fight right there. You got Vera, 4-5 win streak. 2 of those victories over former champions in Frankie Edgar. My God, when he did Frankie, that just was
people don't remember.
They don't remember, especially with the kick that he just did to Cruz.
Before Michael Chandler did what he did to Tony Ferguson, it was done
That was the worst one.
Chito.
So Vera showing I could finish some of these guys. I could take on the best of the best. Him versus former champion Peter Yan. I think that would have been a tremendous matchup right there. 2 of the best. Him versus O'Malley in a rematch of O'Malley's loss in the UFC. That would have been phenomenal to see as well. But man, oh man, what a showing from Vera. It will be very interesting to see what path he goes up to next. Does he maybe stay in shape to be a possible replacement for Yan or for O'Malley? Or does he take on somebody else within the division as it goes forward? We'll see, but I'll tell you what, whether you're Dillashaw, Sterling, Yan, O'Malley, you got Chito Vera in the shadows waiting. The boogeyman is waiting for you.
Coolest man in the division, baby.
Let me ask you this. You look at someone like Dominick Cruz, one of the greatest to ever do it, his phenomenal career and what he's done. He clearly still wants to fight, still wants to show that, hey, I still have something left to give. Yeah. He's tremendous behind the table, though, as a commentator.
Yeah. Oh, one of the best.
Do you still want to see Dominick Cruz fight? And if so, should he still try to take on contenders or maybe put him in matchups, i.e., take on a Frankie Edgar, take on fighters who are no longer in the title picture but still have a name and still have value to it? That way you're in meaningful fights.
The man's been doing this for the longest time. Dominick
Very
Cruz.
long time.
And let's not get it twisted. Yes, that was a horrendous knockout Chito Vera gave to him, to Dominick Cruz. But Dominick Cruz was looking good through that fight. He was aggressive.
It wasn't horrible.
He was bum rushing him with his attacks, and he looks good. He still can do it. He's still there. Maybe he's still able to fight contenders. Maybe he's now at that stage of his career where instead of going on the path of trying to fight to get another shot at the belt, maybe he's more of the fighter where he's got the big enough name where now it's just what do the fans want to see? Yeah. Who do you want to see in there fighting
Frankie Edgar.
Frankie Edgar, another great choice. I mean, there's no, of course, yeah. I hope you're good. Exclusive, baby. Yeah. I just, maybe they need to start pairing him with guys that are just. He's still good enough to be a main event. He still is there.
Frankie Edgar.
Frankie Edgar.
Man, I need to get some water.
It sounds like to me like you have an idea of who you want to see.
Who, me?
Like, yeah, you.
No. I don't want to see Dominick Cruz versus Frankie Edgar. I don't want to see two former champions go at it. I don't want to see two guys historically undersized for the divisions, and they were the champions of it. Guys who use movement and angles and combinations. I don't want to see those two great champions fight each other. Wink, wink.
That would be an amazing fight. I think that probably could be what's next.
Yeah.
And
Cruz Edgar, take my money.
Yes, and even if it's, even if his time for chasing titles is over, Dominick Cruz is still going down as, I think, a Hall of Famer.
Oh, without question.
A great champion, great fighter in the entire division. And obviously, we know when his fighting career is done, he's got a nice little career set up for after his fighting days are over.
Of course.
So, he's still got a few more good fights left, I see.
So let's pivot just a little bit, because like we said, this was an amazing weekend for fights right here.
It was.
Well, there was some MMA going on. Hey, Griff, guess what? There was some boxing going on over here in the desert as well. There was some pretty good boxing going on. Former undisputed champion Teofimo Lopez, I'm going to say that correctly,
Please.
went out there and put on a showcase. Suffered his first loss of his career.
Yeah.
All right, losing to Campos, bounces back and says, hey, you know what? I'm focused. I'm healthy again. Let me go out here and take on Pedro Campos. A very qualifying opponent, but not one of the world beaters, not one of the top class fighters.
Yeah.
Goes out there and says, hey, fans came to see Lopez. They came to see the former champion. I still want to show you guys the reason I beat Lomachenko wasn't a fluke. Wasn't a one-hit wonder. I'm the best fighter in this division. He went out there, puts on a show, gets the deciding victory right there with the finish. What did you think of Lopez return bout?
I mean, first fight, new weight class, he came back after, and we know in boxing, a loss, it weighs a lot more than a loss in, say, MMA.
Oh, very much so.
One loss in your boxing career could really just derail your entire career.
Which is weird.
Yes.
Which is weird.
It's a flaw in the system of boxing, which I think we can all agree. I think that, it looks good that he went in his first fight in a new weight class. He comes in, he gets the win, not just an easy win, he struggled. It was a battle.
It was
a battle. He was able to come back, he was able to do what he needed to do to get the win. So now he's in this new weight class, now it's time, maybe this is the way to get around those losses. Maybe for boxers, if you lose in a weight class, maybe you move down to a new weight class, and you're able to take on those big names, take on other guys, and you're able to build your way back into getting a title shot and getting your name back into the upper lunch of the whole entire class.
And you said get his name back in there. You want to know some of the names that's in that weight class that he said? Ryan Garcia. The Instagram model that literally has the fastest hands we've ever seen. Javante Tank Davis, ever heard of him?
Tank Davis,
I think his last opponent is still asleep for the knockout blow that he delivered.
Still slumped.
Devin Haney. Don't know if you know who he is. He's pretty good. He's
pretty good.
Griff, I don't know if you know this too, but Lopez beat this guy, some Olympic guy from the Ukraine called Vasily Lomachenko. Lomo, they call him. I don't know if he's any good. Apparently they said, he was good in the ring. He went to go fight the war. He's coming back. He wants to put his name in there. It's an awesome division in boxing right now. You throw Lopez getting back in there. Oh yeah, you also got George Campos who defeated Lopez. You throw all those names in there. They're at the point in their careers. We've always seen Lomachenko versus Lopez. We're hearing about Davis, Garcia. Oscar De La Hoya was in attendance talking about maybe Lopez and Garcia goes next. They're at the point. There's no way to get around fighting each other now. Davis, Haney, Campos, Lopez, Lomo, Garcia, Davis, they all are now in this mix of having to fight each other. Who is the absolute best? Do they do a round robin? A few years ago when Andre Ward was in the super middleweight division, they did I believe a 6-man tournament.
Yep.
They all had to fight each other twice. 2 losses, you get eliminated to see who the best is. Andre Ward, from Oakland by the way, went out there and obviously came out on top, but maybe you do something like that. You promote it as a tournament style to where it's almost like a continuation of the series. That way they all have their own showing, but they also are in the tournament to where they have to face each other. What do you think about possibly something like that?
So what it sounds to me is like this proposal you have is where you're putting the biggest names in boxing together fighting each other.
Yep.
Something the fans of boxing probably want to see.
Absolutely.
So it kind of sounds like it's probably the way it should be, the way boxing should have been doing it for the longest of times, is giving the fights that the fans want to see that actually has potential or has actual weight on it, actually has implications on it. I believe that's the best way to do it. That's the way they should have been doing it.
I think there's a promotion already doing that though. It's not boxing, though.
No, it's not.
It's in the world we love, which is the UFC.
The way Dana's done it.
The way Dana has done it. Speaking of which, if we transition, we look behind us, now we look forward. This coming weekend, UFC 278. We talked about good matchups. We got the undisputed pound-for-pound king going down, Kamaru Usman taking on Leon Edwards. Now, this is a rematch of a previous fight in their careers where Edwards lost to Usman. Now they both have grown as fighters. Usman clearly the best fighter in the world right now, taking on a deserving Leon Edwards. Real quick, Griff, what are your thoughts on this particular matchup?
Well, first off, I need to recheck the rankings because I think there's a man fighting at 145 who would argue about that pound for pound.
We could get into that a little bit later.
I watched this fight. I look at this matchup, and again, we say everyone has a puncher's chance, but is Leon Edwards the guy? Is he the guy that's gonna finally dethrone the guy who's basically going down as the greatest welterweight of all time? Is he gonna be that guy? I mean, Leon Edwards, no disrespect at all. Leon Edwards is a great champion. He's a great fighter. But if I look back at his fight with him and Nate Diaz, he was winning that entire fight, goes into the 5th round, and Nate Diaz kind of wobbles him a little bit, and it kind of looks a little scary for Edwards.
For a minute.
And for a minute,
We fight for 25.
But then again, you see fights where Kamaru Usman goes 5 rounds with the likes of Kobe Covington.
Yeah.
Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah.
Did it look at all in any of those fights? Was there ever a moment of doubt that Usman was not going to come out as a champion or not come out with a win?
I wouldn't say moments of doubt. I would say, though, there were times when you saw him against Covington when you felt like if Covington could put a couple consistent combinations together. But I do get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. It is one of those matchups where you look at Leon Edwards, a terrific stand-up fighter. Here's my concern, Griff. Usman's been talking about maybe fighting Canelo Alvarez in boxing.
Yeah.
Usman is stood up against Covington. They're both wrestlers, so okay, that cancels each other out. Yeah. He knocked out Jorge Masvidal. You think Usman's going to get a little overconfident in his training and striking and maybe decides to want to stand with a world-renowned kickboxer like Leon Edwards? If so, maybe he surprises Edwards with that attack. But then again, what if Edwards say, oh, if you're not going to wrestle me, buddy, bring it on. That's a little bit of my concern, but Usman has grown leaps and bounds. I think this is going to be a tremendous matchup. And again, like you said, this is another chance for Usman to further cement his legacy as possibly the greatest 170-pounder of all time, maybe surpassing George St. Pierre. Too bad GSP is just a little bit longer than 2, because that would be awesome if he came back out of retirement. One more fight.
It's always this with UFC fans,
We're always
the imaginary fights.
Imaginary.
What could have happened,
Yeah.
Would have been amazing to see, though.
It would have been amazing to see. Speaking of amazing to see, the co-main event, get your lotions ready. We are going to have Paula Costa taking on Luke Rockhold. The male model going at it. The sexy guys in the club going at it. That's going to be a tremendous one. We got former champion Jose Aldo on the card. This particular matchup between these fighters are going to be tremendous to see. UFC 278, right up north in Salt Lake City.
Shout out to the Scum Boys up in Utah, baby. We got a fight. We got a big card waiting for us right now.
They really got to enjoy Saturday night, because on Sundays there's no party. It's okay though. It's okay though. It's going to be fun. Anyways, guys, be sure to tune in for the recap and also for next week's show. Love seeing you guys here again. Once again, this is Griff Kemp. This is Kalani Lewis. This is the main event on Franchise Sports Media. Till next time, fight fans. Peace.